We're going to start talking about something we talked about in our very first episode, and that's NBA championship odds. We are about halfway through the season. The Lakers open the season as the favorites. They're still the odds-on favorite to win, but the Brooklyn Nets, a team I know Jarod and Jamal are getting very high on here. They have closed the gap in terms of odds. So I'm asking the guys here today, are the Lakers still the favorite in your eyes to win the championship in terms of putting your money on them, or would you go with another team? Jarod, since you love KD so much, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead.
Look, I'm assuming full health, right? It's still the Lakers, but only slightly. Like, Brooklyn, in my estimation, is going to be better than a lot of people think come playoff time. And again, this is assuming full health everywhere, which I know Brian's going to be like, we can't assume that. Yeah, but that's the whole point. We're assuming full health. And look, Brooklyn closing the gap. Yeah, I mean, we know what playoff basketball ultimately comes down to, right? When it's tight and your fancy split actions and your side ball screens and all that stuff don't work, yo, man, I need you to either get a stop or get a bucket. And that's got three dudes who can get buckets. Like, that matters, right? Like, we've seen it time and time again. That matters.
It absolutely matters. The Nets now are at plus 300. Lakers, across the board, you can get anywhere from plus 250 to plus 280. The next you can get at plus 320. DraftKings has them there now. Murph, I also know you're very high on the Nets right now and what they could do offensively for many of the same reasons that Jarod is. Are they a team you would put the money on right now, or is a team maybe like the Clippers or somebody with a little bit longer odds like the Bucks or the Jazz? I know how Brian feels about the Jazz. Are those teams you maybe want to put your money on now?
Did you just suggest I put money on the Clippers?
I did, but I know you also feel me on the Clips. You know, the Clips be clipping. We know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I put money on them last year, and look what they did to me. Yes, the Clippers have talent. Yes, they have better odds. But if you're not going to win, it doesn't matter what the odds are. We already know that this team chokes. They need a point guard. I just don't see it. But for the Nets, yes, I'm all in on the Nets. You know, I've been saying this, you know, all along. Even when the trade first happened, in the NBA, talent wins. Okay, and they have the most basketball talent. I'm sorry, we usually talk about talent in offensive terms, but hey, it is what it is. They have like top 15 offensive guys, easy. Okay, in the league right now, that usually wins. The Lakers won last year. They were the most talented team. They had two top 5 guys, two top 5, top 7 guys, however you want to call it, and they won. They are no longer the most talented team in the NBA. So I'm going with the Nets, and that's including the Lakers. I don't think anybody's going to beat the Nets if, of course, they are healthy. And I'm with Jarod in assuming that. So yeah, I go the Nets. This, like you said, it's decent odds, plus 300. It's, you know, you might as well hop on that now before the odds get worse for you in terms of taking them. And as far as all these other teams, the Clippers, who I just talked about, Utah, Denver, Milwaukee, these are nice teams, but they are not going to win a championship. Okay, maybe the only one, and I'll throw Brian a bone with Miami. If you want to go real long shot, go Miami, because at least Miami has shown that they could get there. They've gotten there. It was a different season. Don't get me wrong, but they've shown ridiculous toughness and great defense. So they have a chance. These other teams don't even have a chance to me.
Murph, why'd you have to go and do that? Why'd you have to go and set Brian up like this to be right at the point where he's going to be like, oh, yeah, we're all in on Miami? Brian, is that the long shot? Because Murph just put it for you on a plate. This is a layup for you. Is this the long shot team that you might bet on in terms of odds to win an NBA championship? Because we all know one thing on the show: nobody believes in the Heat the way you believe in the Heat. That's for sure.
Brian, part of hashtag Heat culture. We know this.
Oh, he absolutely is. Brian, go ahead. Speak your piece.
I may or may not have just thrown something in the chat. You guys could look at that if you want. Not the private chat. I mean the public one.
I see it. Can you feel the heat? Eddie Guerrero. We see you.
Rest in peace, Eddie. Yeah, in terms of betting favorites, I mean, the obvious two front runners to me would probably be the Lakers and Nets. That would be the safe money right now. as much as I still have doubts about the Nets, making it through the whole season healthy, and history would suggest that with Kyrie and KD, Kyrie specifically, like that's going to be something to watch. I still think that if they're at full strength by the end of the season, that they're the betting favorites right now. However, my mind will change if the Sixers do get Kyle Lowry, because Matisse Thybulle will probably be in that deal. And as good as he is defensively, you can't really play him with Ben Simmons in the same lineup along with Joel Embiid, and like it just gets clunky and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And Thybulle hasn't been as impactful this year as he probably was as a rookie. So with me, it's between Philly and Brooklyn. I feel like they're on tier 1 of the Eastern Conference, slight edge to Brooklyn at this moment, but it's still the regular season and we have half the season left to play. And then after that, it's like the rest of the Eastern Conference teams who could potentially sneak up and like make this interesting. Boston, if they get it together, Milwaukee, if they get it together, Miami, if they get it together, et cetera, et cetera.
A lot of ifs.
Maybe Toronto, maybe Indiana. I don't know. We'll see. But like that's sort of what it is to me. And in the West, it's the Lakers just on a tier by themselves right now. Then everybody else, not everybody else, but I would group like the Nuggets if they're, if they're actually functioning the way that they're supposed to, with Utah and the Clippers like right underneath and things like that. Portland, I don't know. We'll see. They can't really defend, but they do have Damian Lillard. They're going to get CJ McCollum back, and they're a sneaky team who can make some sort of move that's going to help them. And they've been snake bit due to injury, so they're another team that I'm not sure how far they're going to make it as well. But so for right now, Lakers and Nets, not sexy, but they're the favorites right now. But there are some other teams, like maybe the Clippers can get it together because they're not in a bubble, but I'm kind of with Murph. Like, I kind of need to see that before I can believe it.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. Go ahead, Jarod.
Dex, I will say, from a gambling perspective, right? Clips are plus 500, Jazz are plus 800, Sixers are plus 1,200. Now, we all just kind of talked about them briefly. They all need to make a move. I don't agree with Brian that Kyle Lowry is going to all of a sudden make the Sixers better because, you still have perimeter shot creation issues. Yeah, Kyle Lowry's okay. He's not excellent at that. He's fine at it. He's not great, right? Your lead ball handler in Ben Simmons still doesn't do that well enough. So that would still worry me. Now, where I think Kyle Lowry would help someone would be the Clippers. If he went to the Clippers and they kept their stars, then I'd be like, oh, that's legit. And at plus 500, if I got money to throw around, why not? Same with the Jazz. They need a perimeter shot creator to go along with Bogdan. But I mean, those guys don't grow on trees, so I don't know where you're finding one.
Jarod, let me.
I know what. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead. I'll say.
Jarod, let me just say this real quick. It's less for me about like the shot creation, though that is part of it, but it's also like he's somebody I trust in the playoffs.
And no doubt, I trust Kyle.
Right, Ben Simmons in the playoffs hasn't really given you that much, despite like how great he's been in the regular season, particularly defensively this year by comparison. Then Joel Embiid in the playoffs, like we haven't seen it, especially the way he's playing now. You would think that he's going to carry that over to the playoffs. Kyle Lowry sort of eases that and levels that out for me on a team coached by Doc Rivers. So I think that would help as much of an identity thing than probably anything else. And I think there's something to be said for that.
No doubt. And I agree with you. Sorry, Dexter. I just want to, real quick though, the thing with Thybulle is, offensively, you're kind of like, man, whatever. He's so much younger than Kyle Lowry. He can chase around and hang with Kyrie all day. Kyle Lowry doesn't want to be on Kyrie or switch on Harden. All that's a lot to put on him for an entire 7-game series. Again, you're talking about Ben Simmons.
He'll do it though.
He'll do it. And Kyle Lowry and Tobias Harris. Fine, you take those four. Give me KD, Kyrie, and Harden any day against that crew. They're gonna wax them dudes.
I do think it'll be tough. I do also agree with you, Jarod, that I think that Kyle Lowry would help the Clippers more than he would help the Sixers.
If he goes to the Clippers,
not that he wouldn't help the Sixers. Not that he wouldn't help the Sixers. It's just I think if in terms of value, more for one team, I would go with that. But I think as you wrap this up, I think you bring up a good point, Jarod, in terms of betting, right? Now is the time if you want to get in on a team that you think can make a move, where it's what you or Brian are saying, whether it's the Sixers, whether it's the Clippers, maybe the Jazz you brought up as well too. Who knows? Because if you're subscribing to what Murph says, which is none of these other teams are going to do it, they're not going to win shit, then maybe you kind of, if you want to put your money, you got to look at the team that you think might make a move
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks for you is if you put your money on that team and then trade deadline comes and they don't make a move.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You're hedging.
Right.
You're basically hedging your bet, right? If you're like, look, we know it's going to be net, you're like, all right, let me try to hedge out here. And I'm guessing that these teams are going to make a move. And it's futures bet anyway. So it's all guesswork. But if you got money to throw around right now, +5, +8, +12, those are nice odds today. They might change.
And also that Miami situation, just the odds, like plus 3,300 for a team that was just there last season. And then you can count on other injuries. You can count on injuries to the Nets. You can count on injuries to the Bucks or whoever else in the East. And if Miami is even 90% there, you know they're going to be a hard out for anyone. So I think those odds, that plus 3,300 is crazy. You're just going strictly off, the fact that they played terribly this regular season, which we all know doesn't mean anything.
By the way, they're gonna make a trade. I don't know how meaningful it'll be in terms of the name that they bring in, but you saw with just Jay Crowder last year and what that did for them. If somebody could replicate that, then if you're basically banking on somebody to get to the finals more than you are to actually win it, because they're going to give you a chance anyway. To me, the best bang for your buck right now in terms of teams that I currently think could absolutely win the championship as far as betting goes is that plus 1,200 with the Sixers. But to Murph's point, Miami, because of the number, it's like, why not put a couple dollars on that, especially since they're going to be a tough out anyway. But in terms of teams that at this moment I think can actually win and give me the best bang for my buck, because the Lakers and Nets are obviously the favorites, it will be Philly at plus 1,200.
Yeah, and I'll say this as we wrap up this segment. I even think if you don't look at just the NBA champion, but you look at winners for each conference, Miami, because of what Murph is talking about, and even taking that plus 3,300 to win the championship, maybe looking at them at a bet to win the conference, which is plus 1,600, which is still pretty good odds. And they've done it before, and they've got a little bit of that Heat culture and Heat DNA that Brian loves so much, right? But in all seriousness, that might not be a bad bet. That might not be a bad bet at all if you're looking at it. Just take it down from champion and maybe looking at what people can do in terms of winning the conference. Want to give a shout out to our guy Eric Chang. Thank you for rocking with us on a Thursday. Good to see you back up in here. Let us know what you think about who's the best value or odds to win the NBA championship. Also want to remind everybody, you like what we're doing, you like rocking with us every Friday and even on this Thursday evening, please subscribe to the Props Network YouTube channel. That's where you can find all the great content that we do across this channel, including NBA picks and props every week. And we will be moving